trying to keep up with a tsunami of young students coming into the system. And the numbers, if you just think about the size of the numbers, they are staggering. For instance, we have 25 million young people who do not finish primary education. They are the sons and daughters of illiterate parents, and these students are multiplying in the millions from one school district to another school district across the country. Of course, the weakest link in the system are these formative years of primary schooling. And so we can say, if we look at education as a whole, that we neglect this part of our education system more than any other part, which is the K-5 years. And a lot of damage is done because most students drop out. And what happens as a result is that this impact cascades not only within the education sector all the way to high school and to colleges and universities, but it cascades through the nation as we have people who did not get the opportunity, the right to be educated. So as for post-secondary education, if we look at the sectors that we work in at Agha and at LUMS and all the other universities that are here represented in this room, during the last 15 years, I'm told that the numbers have increased a lot. And the numbers I learned from the Higher Education Commission conference day before yesterday are something like 250,000 students in the 200 universities that we have in the country, and that is a 15-fold increase over the period of last 15 years. But again, you know, this is a country of 220 million people. So if you even look at the higher education sector, we're talking about a 0.001%, a dot in this universe where we don't really do that well. Even in that sector, I would argue that we don't do a very good job in terms of teaching. But I think the bigger story, and the reason that so many of you are here today, is that we don't know much about learning. We need to learn about learning because each one of us, if you're a parent, no matter what your age is, you value learning. But we don't know much about it. And so perhaps the first question we should ask is, well, who does know about it? Who are the experts who can give us some insights about learning? And the answer is really not that difficult because we do have experts who study and think and spend their lives about learning, and these experts are cognitive scientists, they are neuroscientists, there are educational psychologists, and there are practitioners who have gained expertise in understanding pedagogy. Now, imagine for a moment that we took the most important lessons from these experts and we put together some courses that would help students to understand how they learn. Furthermore, suppose these courses provided really practical and useful insights and techniques that would help them as learners, irrespective of their age, to succeed in challenging subjects like math and physics and, for that matter, any subject that appeared difficult for them. And now here's the good news. Such courses exist. One of them has taught millions of students, and that course is Learning How to Learn. It's the world's most subscribed online course, and it is in demand because, well, there's no other course like it. 2.5 million students have taken the course to date, and I am told that over 1,000 students enroll in this course every single day. So what does this course really teach you? Well, it addresses challenging problems that students face. Let's take a couple of these very quickly. One of them is a problem not only students face, but I think everybody faces, and that is procrastination. Procrastination, if you think about it, has a lot of severe long-term consequences. For students, it leads to cramming, leads to memorization, and that produces, of course, success in learning. But do we ever sit back and give students insight as to how we should manage procrastination. I think you could say the same thing about nutrition. You could say the same thing about exercise. You could say the same thing about, well, sleep. These are critical elements in the learning process. And yet, we don't really know why they're really that important. We just know they're important. And I think one lesson we've learned about pedagogy is that you just can't tell students what to do. You can't tell your children, just go to sleep. They have to understand why that is important. And here again is some good news. Now we know why. We can show students what is happening inside their brain when they are, in fact, say, practicing, or when they take a break for refreshments, or for that matter, when they sleep. So we have these techniques, spaced repetition, avoiding cramming, deliberate practice. There are so many techniques that make a demonstrable difference in the students' learning outcomes. And yet, again, if you think back, for all the formal years that, ask yourself whether you've been educated, for all the formal education, you never had the opportunity to really learn how you could learn. And that, I believe, we can change right now. We can move into the future by providing our students training on a massive scale by reaching directly to them and, of course, to their teachers. We can reach them with very high quality materials to convey the best about what we know from research about how students learn effectively. And I think it's time we reached out directly to students with courses that will be immensely helpful, of course, to their teachers, who will find it easier to convey those challenging topics in mathematics and physics, and to promote deeper understanding. And this, ladies and gentlemen, brings me to introduce to you our speaker for this afternoon, our keynote speaker, Dr. Barbara Oakley. Now, if you look at Barbara's history, a lot has been written about her. There's YouTube videos and, of course, her famous course. But if you look at her trajectory, you'll see that her innovations began in the classroom, as many of us experience as teachers. But then she went to another level and she said, some of the stuff that I've learned in the classroom I want to share with a larger audience, and she did that with what was very common at the time that she did it, which is to write a book about it. And that was A Mind for Numbers, and that book became actually the source material for the massive open online course, which you have all heard about. And if you read the kudos about her work, you can read the most recent Wall Street Journal article which describes her work as revolutionary because she has this amazing ability to simplify some very complex intersection of neuroscience and of social behavior. And if I may say this, if universities are Goliaths, well, Barbara is the David.